Good morning, guys. Welcome to day 125 until I'm a YouTube millionaire. And for this one, I'm going to read another essay that I wrote. I believe this one was back in 2017. It's called Bellwether. Bellwether. I wonder if any of you can tell just how much of our world today is complete fantasy. Do any of you realize that what you see as everyday goings-on is in fact indirectly and directly manufactured by a great many different sources? What I'm trying to say here is that we are in an artificial situation right now, or an artificial situation within an artificial situation inception. It is my submission that the world we live in, and I have backed up this claim with many a logical argument, ranging from discussion on the double slit experiment to logically thinking through how the nature of existence itself does not make sense, is a complete farce. Try to follow me on this one. Let us look at a petri dish of the United States, the presidential election from 2016. There essentially could not have been two candidates that were more polar opposite, more inflammatory, and more separating for the whole population of the country, let alone the world. It must be understood that this phenomenon is partially due to the information age, where all candidates for that most coveted office, which is the presidency, are more vetted than they have ever been in the entire history of humanity. But I honestly believe that the internet was just an outlet. I think the scheme is much grander than that. Understand, once more, that anything I can say here is fully in that realm of speculation. And some might even say conspiracy theory, but that word is lost, or term has lost all meaning. But I just cannot see any other way around this. Now, I have much farther to go in this explanation, but let me first establish the groundwork for the path we are going as a society, and the egregious problems that we face. Here was the problem, or is the problem, that most desperately needed to be addressed, and immediately so. We were trusting the wrong people, and too asleep to really care much about where they were leading us. What is the easiest way to subdue and control a population, even one as relatively quote-unquote aware and intelligent as that of the United States and other Western countries such as Great Britain? You feed them, you clothe them, you provide them with shelter, you provide them with ample amounts of banal and useless entertainment, things that do not challenge them to think differently or stand up to the status quo. The fruits of this paradigm are things like Keeping Up with the Kardashians, Real Housewives, Miley Cyrus, and much more. Once more, and this is an easy one to accomplish when everyone is comfortable enough to not care otherwise, anyone who calls out these or those trying to lead you into the lambs to the slaughter is ridiculed, if not outright killed or unalived, or imprisoned. You saw what happened in 2020. Principally, ridicule is the form of suppression that sells or calls the least amount of attention to the situation. Imprisonment next, and unaliving will not matter much either if the general population is still not paying attention. You all know, all of you reading this or hearing me talk about it, just as well as I do, that the things of which I speak are true, though some of you may be, or were, too comfortable to point them out, or too afraid, which, when there is little momentum on your side, I can understand, but still not accept. The logical arguments against things like the Federal Reserve are rock solid. It should not exist. Period. End of story. though only 1 in a million people long ago could pierce the veil and truly understand this. The information age has perhaps reduced the threshold to 1 in 1,000, but that is still an incredible hurdle to overcome. In truth, do you want to know where we were going to be led? We were being led to total enslavement. And even now, those individuals who are trying to effect that enslavement still have not given up on their project. For those of you who still do not understand, read 1984 by George Orwell. I am almost certain that we were being led into a circle of fiends trying to eat us so that we could not see into their plans. George Orwell wrote that book as a consequence of this fact. He went into hiding for roughly 6 months after his experiences. And when he came back out into the public, the book was made, and he unalived himself shortly thereafter. You should look into the backstory of George Orwell. He refused to dress warmly after being diagnosed with tuberculosis in England. So, he unalived himself. You know that of which I speak is true. You know it. Though you cannot overcome the momentum of the hundreds of years over the course of only one generation when you have so little momentum on your side. This harkens back to us knowing very little and living very short lives. No, it takes infiltrators everywhere, unaware of who you can trust, but knowing that there are those in positions of high levels of authority that wear the veil of evil just to make the right decision at the right time and at the right place. So just as the enemy can have sleeper cells, so can the white hats be sleeper cells. White hats being good guys. If you can trust no one, then anyone can be an enemy, and anyone can be an ally. Would you bank on a 50% chance of victory or a 0.000001% chance of victory? So if you make a big old mess of things, and previously the best chance that you had of winning was 0.000001%, if nobody can tell who's good or who's bad, your chance of winning goes up to 50%, or approaches that. Pretty good. Hell of a lot better than the previous percentage. So with the problem established, that the public is asleep and too comfortable to care, how do you change this? You got to make it uncomfortable to stay in that same place. How do you do that? You infiltrate every single area where they take sanctuary, from Hollywood to mainstream media. That's a very big one. To sports and politics. You make it uncomfortable in every facet of their lives where they find refuge. And when you do that, then even the most stubborn of individuals will eventually budge and actually start paying attention. In this vein, those who are making your lives uncomfortable are actually your allies. Many of them. Some of them are unwitting pawns in the giant game of chess, falling victim to their deeply held biases that only rear their ugly faces when pressed. But some individuals are deliberately acting, deliberately saying and doing things in which they do not believe to foment discomfort. You once more do not know who you can trust. But everyone is actually partaking in the mass awakening, all together, for better or for worse. The word revelation, like the Bible, means awakening, essentially. We are basically smacking each other as hard as we can to wake up out of our stupor. You know what is the kicker here? I can tell you this now because you still do not know whether or not you can trust me. My name is Payton, like Satan. Well, either way, I'm not your enemy. Only those who have a personal relationship with me, understand my history, and have their own personally accepted proof of my intent are willing and able to do so. The rest may think that I am simply speaking nonsense. But I would take a 50% chance any day over an essentially non-existent possibility of victory. Now, I'm a nobody. I'm just a simple 35-year-old man with some crazy theories and perhaps an above-average intelligence. In being a nobody, you are free from the restraints of the institutions of our world, so you don't have to worry about an authority figure telling you what is true or not. How would you know that the path you were on, and could still fall back into if we are not careful and vigilant, was going to lead to enslavement and eventually an all-out apocalypse? Well, you need to be able to discern the consequences of your actions with perfect fidelity to be able to say with any degree of certainty that your path will lead to nowhere or worse. We have many tools with high levels of predictive power. Mathematics and physics are very useful for predicting where particular planets will be at particular times in their respective orbits around their host stars, for instance. We have economic models that can predict with reasonable accuracy what the markets will do given particular stimuli or given particular timelines and situations, a la tariffs causing the stock market to be shaky. Imagine that you crack the code and eventually figure out how to build a porthole into your own future. You would have a looking glass through which you could see where you have been and where you are going. You see that there are an infinite number of paths, all leading to an infinite number of conclusions. And in that vision, you realize that you truly do have free will and can change the course of history. It's called time travel. Called time travel, my friends. Now you can say I'm off my rocker. At least for now. We haven't come up with a tool yet, but perhaps soon. I will tell you this truth, and one I hope you will understand and embrace completely. Never allow yourself to be fully comfortable. Always seek the next great challenge to your willpower, to your creativity, to your ingenuity, to your physical strength, to your soul. Whether anything that I have said above is true, within this essay is true or not, just assume that it is. Suspend disbelief. And you will understand why it is so important to run as fast as you can to escape the abyss of complacency. Just imagine that the worst nightmares of conspiracy theorists, quote unquote, pale in comparison to how bad it actually is. We are not only to be enslaved, but harvested as if a human farm. Think about that. Additionally, the giant hypothetical mess that I explained earlier also highlights the importance of the personal relationship and living a life where your convictions to your principles are so rock solid that you become a bellwether, a la the name of this essay, by which others can measure the importance of particular actions. You are the standard. This is how you build trust in an external sense. You first trust yourself, which then leads you to be able to live a life of conviction and walk in your path no matter where it takes you. And this builds a history that is hard as diamond, a history that others can come to count on. Whether or not they agree with your path, they can be sure that you are going to take actions to allow for that path to be fulfilled. In the human experience, this is our mission, and the scheme is the ulterior motive to get to that conclusion. The matrix is showing cracks now more than it ever has. When two candidates run for the office of president that are more at odds with one another than ever in the history of the country, are as inflammatory of candidates as we have ever seen, and the media is completely arrayed against one but not the other, there is no way to not see that the situation is at least somewhat manufactured. Ironically, in me saying this, there actually are people that still don't see it. But by whom? You? Me? All of us? The 13 banking families? We're all partaking in the greatest game of chess ever played, and the prize is the human race. Or is this simply a hypothetical, fantastical situation that I'm talking about? You decide. Know that if you pull the strings of the wrong people, perhaps even a nobody such as myself, you might just unleash a Trojan horse who will rain an endless fury upon you from which you will not survive. Like what happened to me when I tried to get out of the military. Crucifixion disease. I mention it in every one of my videos, my workout videos. I don't have arteries in my arms and legs, and I used to be a marathon runner. I was directly, physically attacked in a way that nobody else could see. What's true and what's not? Think about it. The whole damn world is insane and suicidal. Someone has to do something. Not all sheep are asleep. So that's this essay, guys. It was a little bit longer than most of them. I hope you enjoyed it. Love y'all. Peace.